to get together an informational float that would help kind of talk about the river, talk about, some projects and some points of interest. So we have tentatively scheduled that for April 25th of 2026. Hopefully that's enough notice. I said it like a little bit flippantly, but truly we're also busy. So get it on your calendars and hopefully that will continue to work as we get closer. In addition to the zebra mussels that have been found in our area, there's also another invasive species called the New Zealand mud snail. So if you are water users, utilize the cleaning stations that are at the put-ins and takeouts to try and help keep those. Right now, they're not at the full infestation stage. It's at that presence, but not infestation. So let's see if we can all do our part to keep that from occurring. That's all I got today. All right, moving on. I am looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Somebody?
So moved. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. I second.
Okay. Did she call the question?
You can call the question.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. All right. And now I welcome to the podium, the Historical Museum update.
Council, hello, my name is Jamie LaRue. I'm the board president of the society. And Liz, do you have a PowerPoint slide that's supposed to be addressing? Next. There we go. Thank you. So I've been told, thank you. I've been told that you don't like papers, so PowerPoint will blast through this in about 10 minutes. So first thing that I want to say is thank you. As you probably know, council support in this past year has really helped us move forward. I want to thank the mayor and mayor pro tem who've been kind of our liaisons, and they were present when we tried to put together our visionary long-range plan. So I kind of want to talk just briefly about what we've been up to since last year. First, I want to introduce our new executive director, Mark Jensen, right here. And I'll race through this some of the stuff, and then I'm going to get into the budget questions. We hired him in part because of his budget expertise. So if you have questions about that. So Mark's focus has really been on fundraising, public programming, museum operations. We've got some new board members well, and I'm very pleased that we have one in her lower 20s. So we're trying to bridge that generational divide. We've been offering a speaker series and special tours. There were 6 free public speaker series through September on the second Thursday of each month. And I think our most popular one was the organized 2 tours at the Shoshone Power Plant. Seemed like every local wanted to get into that. We have been working on an updated downtown walking tour guide. We printed 3,000 copies. They're gorgeous. And for the first time, we got a lot of advertisers in it. So we're trying to move to this area, but becoming as funded by the community as we can. We have updated our website. We have a quarterly newsletter. Our Ghost Walk fundraiser, one of our most popular things. And I urge you to come, not on Saturday night, which is my first come on the last night when I'm Doc Holliday. By then, I hope to have full consumption and be totally in character. So we have generous sponsor support for that. We're including cemetery tours on 3 weekends, and we're doing 1 indoor performance at Vaudeville as we did last year. We also have a gingerbread house fundraiser that will be happening after the Hotel Colorado lighting event. And kudos to Mark, who's figured out a way to add another 12 hours to our weekly schedule at the museum. So we'll be opening a little bit earlier in the day. Okay, on to budget. Okay, we have our generated revenue year to date is up $60K from last year. And so year to date, we have raised $80,000 in direct donations and sponsorships, advertising, event tickets, grants, museum admissions, and retail. We have additional anticipated income in our Ghost Walk ticket sales, museum admissions, and retail. And we're trying to gear up again for the second time for Colorado Gives and year-end fundraising. So the bottom line, the takeaway on this one is we really are holding our own, controlling costs. Year-to-date revenue is 59.75% from you folks, and we're about 40% from our own efforts, but we are on track to fully match the $120,000 that you gave us last year. So that is the first time that I think our museum can make that claim. We have also established a money market account that have earned interest income for the first time. We have contributed cash of $123,000, and our donations are up $9,000 from last year. And then we've also gone down and tried to take a look at the Bullocks, where we have the Doc Holliday Museum, and kind of spruced that up. Some of our other board members have been doing deep cleaning. That it all looks really good. We have a QR code for donations, and we're actually making some money on this now. So that's been very successful. So why are we here? So we have kind of a standing request from you for this $80,000 that basically defrays some of the costs of Mark. And so that goes to Mark works on grants and fundraising, museum operations, coordination with the community. And then last year, you also gave us $40,000 matching funds. And I have to tell you that I believe that this has been the key to our fundraising success. I can't tell you how powerful it is when we show up to somebody and say, every dollar you give us up to that 40K is matched. And I think it builds a lot of goodwill, and it has been key to our success. So that money would come from the tourism fund, but I should point out that having also volunteered at the museum, tourists are a big part of our business, and we are one of the three things that they often mention that they have come to the city to do. We're also working on a membership program and special events. So the other kind of funding ideas for the year going forward, we're trying to identify additional historians and other speaker presentations. We're working on one for coke ovens coming in January. We're working on a summer Chautauqua presentation series, youth education, including field trips, regular public tours of downtown and other Glenwood Springs history. We spent a little time before the previous director left working on a prohibition tour that I can't wait to take. Looks promising. And we're doing special tours of regional attractions and staffing for cataloging and preservation of museum artifacts, photographs, and documents. One of the things that I've learned as a relatively new member of a resident of Glenwood Springs is when you move to a place, you want to know where you are. You want to know what the story of the place is. And I feel that the work that we do here and the stories that we tell and the history that we preserve is essential to the character of the city. And I'm very proud to be attached to it. So with that, that's the whole pitch. I think I raced through it. Any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Didn't you have an intern that helped with the cataloging, and can you tell us a little more about
Yeah.
that?
So you may remember a couple of years ago, there was a big spike in oil and gas revenue at the library. And so one of the things we've been interested in is I've been tracking the museums all across the county. There are treasures in every one of them, but most of them are not cataloged. So the library committed to a 2-year funding to hire an archivist intern, train them, let them get through some of these catalogs, and then come back and share that knowledge with the library. So that will expire in March, but it's been a wonderful partnership.
Fantastic. Anybody else? I would say that that is an indication that you gave an excellent presentation.
Relieved to hear it.
All right. Yeah, is there anything else? Any action? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Maybe I missed it, Jamie, forgive me, in your presentation. What's the visitation numbers like at the museum? And do you have a feel for local versus visitors?
I think I'll pass this one over to Mark because he's just redid that form and is tracking it. Mark, can you step up and address that one?
Mark Jensen, Executive Director of the Historical Society. I'm in my 4th month here. My understanding at the museum is that it's about 6,000 visitors a year. But there was another part to the question, and
What percent is tourist?
Oh, that surprised me since I've been here. That I'd say 80% or more of the visitors to the museum are tourists. That's one of the reasons I wanted to expand our hours, because we were only open afternoons. And I'd be sitting at my desk and look out the window. There's people wanting to come into the museum in the mornings. They're ready to go. They're ready to start their day. And so that we hope to increase the museum visitation in that way. That's just for the Frontier Historical Museum. Now, the Docks collection in the basement of Bullock's probably gets double that number of people going in there, but we don't have a counter per se. We have a guest book, but I also know from the amount of money in the donation box that it gets a nice number of people going through there. And Bullock's really likes the presence of the museum in their basement because it certainly drives customers to them as well.
How do our visitors, what are the most efficient ways that they can find you? Because your Docks is right on the beaten path. You're off the beaten path. How do they locate you?
Well, we're very glad for the Visitors Center, which drives a lot of traffic to us. Jackie and the other staff there are very, very good with the customers. They're very eager to help us help the other businesses serve the tourist clientele. I was in there the other day and realized that she needs a restock of our rack cards, and so our information card that they would put in the brochure rack needs to be updated, and we need to resupply those. And Bullock's, of course, is always sending people to us. The walking tour guide that Jamie mentioned, 5,000 copies, if I remember right. Yeah, every single last one of them distributed. The advertisers, the distributors asking for more because people do have that interest in history, and we think that visitor's guide, the walking tour guide also drove traffic to the museum. We're also working on improving our website so that they get better information about what we can do and what they can see at the museum and when they can come visit and how affordable it is for them and their families. We just charge $5 for adults. I've raised the youth age window. It was up to 12 years old. Get in for free. I'm changing that to up to 16 years old. I keep the 17-year-old, 18-year-olds at paying an admission fee because my philosophy is if they're just going to be on their phones, then they're with their parents. But I do want to say that when I was looking at taking the job here, one of the things that most impressed me was that this city, I'm going to break this thing before the night's over, that the city saw the worth of an historical society and gave the amount of funding that you give to start that base, because without a paid director, there's no reliability, there's no continuity, and that's where everything starts, is with that basic funding source. People say just go get grants, but the fact is most grants don't pay salaries and they refuse to pay those kinds of things. So we can't ever even just get a start without some kind of base funding to get going on.
I do see if you Google Glenwood Museum, you come up first, which is good. And the only other question, is there any direct relationship or you mentioned your museum cards with onboarding the Rocky Mountaineer? Has there been any discussion of that? Because now they're here longer.
There has been discussion. I've spoken with representatives of the Mountaineer after I got here to continue the conversations we'd had about they're hoping to provide something more history focused for their clientele. And that's one of the reasons we're hoping to hire a tour and events manager, either starting at the end of this year or early next year, so they can really give that kind of program the attention it needs, because it's not something I could add on to my duties, of course. And that would appeal to the Mountaineer clients, but it wouldn't just be them. We'd be scheduling tours so that it fits that kind of schedule, but there are other tourism-based companies that have other kinds of schedules, people who, of course, who are just here in their own cars that want to have that kind of opportunity to learn about Glenwood history, because I agree with Jamie, it's really part of the reason that people come here. And that's the clientele that we know you would like us to serve, and it's the clientele we would like to serve as well. But that events and tours manager, we also want to get the locals to come out and experience history, not only of their own town, but of the greater region, state, even more than that, to make history one of the things that people come to Glenwood history to experience.
Thank you.
So I wanted to bring up one quick point. I real quick just looked at the museum website, and you have on here beginning October 1st, your extended hours, but when you just Google it up and it just shows up, it says opens tomorrow at 1 p.m. So I don't know if you need to add to your
I need to edit the Google
okay, that's,
business listing.
I wanted to bring that up to you. And then the other thing, when we had our store, we really wanted to look at our conversion rate. So we did a counter at the entrance. And then at the end of the day, it just, it was just like, I don't know, like your garage door, like a red light thing when it passes over. If you wanted to throw that in, it was really inexpensive. And that would give you how many people, since it is kind of self-guided over at Docs. And that might help.
Well, that's one of the things we're planning for Docs is a better, not only improved guest look that I put over there, but which not everyone signs, but
Right.
also a counter that we can compare the number of people come in and out with the amount of money that's in the donation box and also decide maybe it's more worthwhile for us to have a volunteer station there as much as
That was
possible.
my thought. Perfect. Perfect. Anybody else? So is there a specific ask tonight?
So it is my belief that the 80K was pretty much a standard.
Correct.
So really what we're asking for is a second bite at that 40K from the tourism fund.
And so that's correct. The $80,000 from the A&I grants fund is in the budget. The $40,000 from tourism is not in the budget that we're about to submit. So I would rather not add that now, but if you guys would like to consider that, I'd like to run it past the Tourism Management Board to see what they think, and then we can add it as a supplemental in the first supplemental of 2026 if you guys choose to.
I think that bears greater discussion. Would that go on to a work session after?
Yeah, we would probably want to talk about it before we put it on an amendment, but I think the Tourism Board meets next week, so we can get it on their agenda. Maybe I don't think either one of us is going to be there, but.
No, oh, yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
So what sort of a timeline are you looking for from us to give you an answer on that? Do you have like a desired?
Well, we're beginning our budget deliberations now, pretty
Okay.
much. And so by the end of the year, certainly.
Okay,
Yeah, and whether we're able to hire a events and tours manager and whether they're 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, depends on how much the city can support us in that and other things.
okay, all right. So thank you. That gives us guidance. Oh, sorry, Steve Smith. Hold on one sec. Okay.
Just to understand where the number, what locations the numbers come from. There's $80,000 base grant, there's $40,000 in play. There's matching,
So what we do
raising
is-
going
is-
on. Which part of that are you matching?
Okay, so the 80,000 is just the straight budget request. And then the condition that the council placed on the 40,000 last year was to say, if you can raise 40,000, we'll give you 40,000.
Got
But
it.
we're using that to promote the museum and raise money.
Thank you.
And it worked.
Counselor Townsley?
Did you guys raise the full 40,000?
We did.
And then when you said it was helpful to go to people and say, we've got this matching grant. After the 40,000 was filled up, did it become a detriment? But not,
But then we referred to it in the past, the city has graciously matched up to $40,000. So the better you can make us look, the better we look to the city.
but would it be helpful at all? I doubt this, but would it be helpful at all to have a lower base grant and a higher match grant to help you out with your fundraising?
I'm happy with the 80-40.
I'm happy with an 80-80. If that's possible. I wouldn't be much of a nonprofit director if I didn't say we're happy to accept any funding you can provide.
Thank you.
Greenville Council, thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. It looks like we're moving on to ordinance 2025-21 landfill regulations. That,
Thank you.
oh, is that you?
That's
okay.
gonna be me.
Okay.
At least for the brief introduction, what you have in front of you is codification of what we discussed at the last meeting about establishing some parameters for kind of what we can enforce out at the landfill, utilizing the fact that it's part of the overall parklands of South Canyon. So we have the ability to do that and establishing some penalties associated with that. So Matt is here to answer any questions as well as I can on it. Otherwise, that's all we've got.
Do I see any questions? Counselor Townsley?
So I was out there the other day and the little speed camera thing that you put up apparently doesn't work.
I think I mentioned it last time, but maybe not. The batteries in it were dead.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're rechargeable batteries and you have to order them. They'll be in here.
That's okay.
Anyone else? No. Again, another sign that you gave a great presentation last time. So yeah, looks like we're looking for a motion.
It's a public hearing because it's.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Is there anybody from the room that would like to comment? Anybody online?
I'm not any good at that.
All right, seeing none, I'll move on, and now I will entertain a motion. Counselor Shatner.
I would move regarding ordinance 2025-21 regarding the rules and regulations for the Glenwood Springs South Canyon landfill that we approve the ordinance.
Do I see a second? Counselor Townsley,
I second
call the question.
Calling the question.
Yep.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, so fees regarding construction of sidewalks. Looks like Watkins is coming up.
Good evening, council. Give me just a second to get my presentation up. Share. Okay, so this is a continued item from our last meeting about sidewalks, how they get built, how they're funded, and how they relate to ADUs specifically. So I'm going to do a brief recap of how sidewalks get built, and then I'll also do a recap of how we started this discussion. So sidewalks have to get built, or a fee in lieu paid for them, when there's not a sidewalk present and the street in question is not on the exempt list, and when one of two things happen. When there's a construction project that involves changes to more than 50% of the exterior walls of a building, or when there's an addition of 500 square feet or more. So in the P&Z meeting of August, they made a recommendation to you all. It was a split vote, but the majority of them recommended changes to how we do fees. 3 commissioners were in favor of a flat fee for all accessory dwelling units, meaning all, whether there's a sidewalk or not, also all ADUs would have to pay a flat fee. A couple of commissioners were in favor of a proportional fee that's based on floor area of the project, and a couple of commissioners recommended no changes. And then at our last meeting, which was September 18th, not the 4th, as it says up there, you all directed us to explore flat rate fees, and I'm going to get into that in the next slide. And there are also a couple questions you guys had that we're happy to answer. One was, can the street tax fund pay for sidewalks? The answer is yes. And then also to kind of provide some information about the actual costs of constructing sidewalks. So as you all know, we have fee in lieu options for paying for sidewalk construction. Those are $60 per linear foot for our residential zoned areas, 5-foot width, and then $96 per linear foot for our mixed use and commercial zones. And so those are 8-foot sidewalks. What we found, because we do have some pretty good data, Matt and the engineering department has been busy building sidewalks this summer, so we have some recent data available. Our 5-foot sidewalks, which are the residential width, those are pretty much right on the money for market cost, except that they don't include the cost of demolition and site preparation, which is something that varies quite a bit between sites. And then when it comes to the 8-foot sidewalks, our commercial width, those are about 9% below market rate, we think. And again, also don't include site prep and demolition. So let's get into the fee options. If you all elect to go with a flat rate fee, a non-zero flat rate fee for ADUs. Our recommendation from staff is $1,500. That comes from when you think about the typical frontage for streets in Glenwood, obviously it varies all over the place, but you usually don't see frontages of less than 25 feet because 25 feet is the standard width of one old town site lot of when the lots in the downtown area were platted back in the 1800s. So one 25-foot frontage in a residential district comes out to $1,500. So we think that's a good baseline if there's a flat rate fee, because that way you're not penalizing lots that have small frontages by making it more than it would be for that typical smallest one. Obviously, it does kind of benefit those larger lots, though, that do have a lot of frontage. So they're kind of getting a break that way. Some other options for you guys to consider, though, are exempting ADUs from the sidewalk requirements. We could do that with a code amendment. All ADUs could be exempted. That would not be much of a change to the money that we raised. The fee in lieu, since 2020, there have been only 3 occasions when we've used this, and that's $15,000. So that's not much difference. Or I want to also mention that you could all leave the fees and leave the code language as is, because this is not something that we deal with very often. Of course, if you're a resident and this is affecting what you want to do, then it's very important to you. But there are not many instances where we've charged a fee in lieu. And even though I don't have the information about how many times someone has had to build a sidewalk, it's not very many times. So to recap some of the issues, why sidewalks are important, they're important for a lot of reasons. They provide social connections for residents, and they play an important role in walkability, active transportation. I think the key point to remember is that people are not able to leave the cars at home unless you give them safe and convenient options to do so. So without sidewalks, which is kind of the starting point for walkability, they're not going to be able to do that. ADUs are also important for our housing market, although they play kind of a limited role. When someone has to build a sidewalk or pay a fee in lieu for it, it does make them a little bit more expensive. And when I say a little bit, you think of the scale of like if it's a $200,000 project for a detached ADU, they might have to pay $6,000 in a fee in lieu. So that's 3%, which is a small percent, but it is still money. Our comprehensive plan has several goals that relate to sidewalks, including specifically filling missing sidewalk gaps. And similarly, there are specific goals about, well, let's see, I got ahead of myself. Yeah, so this was ADUs, specific goals that relate to ADUs. We specifically want to encourage them. We specifically want to reduce barriers to them. And as I mentioned, we want to fill our sidewalk gaps. So both of these are priorities. You can consider them competing priorities for our city. And then I'm not going to read these to you, but when there is a code change that's considered, there are 5 criteria of approval that need to be met. And so you need to make 5 findings of how it meets these criteria. And so I've drafted that for you guys, and we can refer to this if we go down that route. We obviously don't have an ordinance prepared for you tonight, but we will, depending on the direction here. If the direction is simply to change the fees, then what we can do is change the resolution in which we establish the fees. So that's not an ordinance, not a code change, but we can bring that for you at the next meeting as well. This is a picture of a pre-approved ADU in Summit County, and that is all I have for you. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Councilor Schechtner?
Thank you. Watkins, do you have any idea? It's a big ask maybe, but with all the exemptions and partial exemptions that are listed, on top of all the, I would say, a huge percentage of the core of the city that is already sidewalked, how much new sidewalk are we even talking about if we're talking mostly infill projects?
Yeah, I don't have numbers to share with you, although we can get that for you at the next meeting if you'd like. We can provide that. I would say actually a fair percentage of the city that doesn't have sidewalks and isn't on the exempt list is in our kind of downtown core area. You think about the Minters and the Lincolns. Perhaps they should be on the exempt list because there's not a lot of room to give there, but that's where many of them are actually.
Thank you.
Counselor Townsley?
So-
Yep. go ahead.
What's driving this need for a possible change? Are we looking at this?
It came from a work session that we had with y'all. And I think this was before you were on council.
Okay.
It was about ADUs and we were discussing how we could reduce barriers to building ADUs. So as I mentioned, sidewalks is sometimes a barrier. The cost to do it, the cost to pay the fee in lieu. And so we came up with this flat fee idea originally from the Planning and Zoning Commission. It kind of grew out of the idea of being more equitable to different projects. And so I want to mention that if you guys do move forward with flat fee, I'd like to make sure that we specifically say for the record that this will apply just for ADUs. I think it does, because that's kind of what we've been talking about, but to say that for the record. And also whether it will apply to all ADUs or just ADUs in which the sidewalk's missing, because Planning and Zoning Commission was actually interested in it applying to all ADUs, whether or not there's a sidewalk.
Follow up here.
Yeah, no.
So,
go on.
one of the things we talked about in the work session today was having some comments before we did a motion. Which I think Sumner brought up, and I thought it was a great idea. Can we give that a try?
Sure.
Okay, then I guess my thought would be, one, if I was somebody that didn't need a sidewalk and you told me I had a sidewalk fee, I would react to that very negatively. It seems like the citizens have voted really nicely to give us the street tax, and it wouldn't cost much money to take that out of the street tax. We could build all the sidewalks we wanted to, just the way we wanted to, and leave these people alone, let them build more ADUs, which would solve our purposes, and not have you guys wasting time on trying to figure out what we needed, what we didn't need, how it was built, inspections. We'd probably save some money that way too. So I don't know, that would be, I would go into just saying, this would be a great thing for the city just to pick up and move on with.
Counselor Smith?
Thank you. I think I have 3 questions and might lead to more depending on what I learned. Buckins, your presentation last meeting and this meeting included some compelling background on why sidewalks are important. I agree. Can you quantify these options that you've arrayed here, a flat fee, exempt ADUs, no change? Which ones gives us a net greater increase in sidewalks?
I would have to say leaving the regulations as they are, where they either have to build them or pay a fee in lieu for them, because that just gives us more. It's not very many, only 2, but more choices, more options for funding them. I think it takes longer to build them if we wait for another capital project, another Blake Street project. And so I think the more pro sidewalk stance is to leave the regulations the way they are.
Great. I think you may have answered one of my other questions in part of that, but want to just be sure. I like Councilor Townsley's notion of taking advantage of the land and the Streets and Infrastructure Fund where that would be applicable. But I think that would be just in the case of a major rebuild of a section of street, as different from putting 25 feet of sidewalk in front of a new ADU. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's what I think I understood from Councilor Townsley, that the city might take on more of a responsibility in doing it at a larger scale rather than piecemeal.
Right. I mean, just if we need.
Hold on, you're not. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like it's something that, from what I'm hearing you say, is that it doesn't come up very often. It's pretty limited. Why not, if we really want? It seemed like when Matt was talking to us one time, he said he's got some people out there that are getting pretty good. I've watched him do some sidewalks here and there. I mean, maybe not a capital improvement project, but we just go in and build a sidewalk for 25 feet or 50 feet if we need to, and pay it out of street tax. And we're probably not losing a lot of revenue, not losing a lot of sleep.
No, and I take your point about somebody not being super excited about being,
I would really be
a
unhappy
fee
if
in lieu
I
for a sidewalk they don't
saw
want. I agree. We're not talking about huge dollars here. Historically, we have done a lot of this kind of thing in-house. And we haven't had to pay for it out of the street and infrastructure tax fund as a result of that. But let us get an idea of what we think we'd be talking about in revenue. But I like your idea. I think we could probably make that happen.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Two questions in one. Third one, last one. You mentioned in your presentation 2 weeks ago and in your memo this week, the possibility or maybe the plans to revisit the exemption list, this list of streets exempted from sidewalks or from partial sidewalks. I, for one, would love to see that be a two-way analysis, not just looking for more streets to exempt, but see which streets really ought not be on that list, just to be sure you got the full spectrum. I was surprised to see places like Sky Ranch and Uray and Oasis Creek on the exemption list where there's lots of right-of-way or at least lots of land available. That's subjective, but a more objective analysis of the current list to see if it needs tweaked either direction would be really helpful. Thank you.
And if I could respond to that, I will defer to Steve and Matt on how that works and what we do with that. But if you guys direct us to revisit that list, we're happy to do that.
Councilor Straw?
I suspect that the most offended ADU potential builders are the ones that are having to put in a sidewalk where there is no other sidewalk. I presume the most expensive of those are up on the top of the hill up there, where it's not likely that the city's going to put in any sidewalk in a long, long time. And if they did, it would be at a different elevation than what the ADU developer would put in. So it'd have to be torn out again anyway. So I guess I don't see it being a big offense to leave things just the way they are. And if that ever becomes a big capital project, then it'll probably be a lot more successful. And I don't find it all that. It's kind of like tolling when if you're not taking something away, it's not such a bad thing. I mean, nobody's ever been able to ride bikes up there yet, right? And nobody's been walking around up there very much yet, except the locals, I presume. So if an ADU guy has to pay a fee, it's offensive, but he doesn't have to put in a sidewalk, which is what we have now, right?
That's correct. There's an
So, yeah.
Councilor Shatner?
Thank you. In general, I would not assess a sidewalk fee at all for anybody who wants an ADU. It's kind of contrary to, even though we don't have a lot of ADUs being built, but I think it's contrary to our long-term goal of encouraging it, that both commissions have emphasized. I would be, and I'm not even sure, I haven't talked with Steve, where these fee in lieu go to, particularly in places where there are no sidewalks and where they end up getting used. But also I would be careful. I don't know how the code, I'm thinking I would exempt almost any residential construction 4 units or less, but I'd be careful. I don't want to exempt automatically by default or omission anything larger than that. And I don't know how you balance those two. I don't know what the existing code says, but that'd be my bias. Don't charge ADUs. If possible, don't charge anybody with a small residential project, and make sure the bigger ones do contribute. That's my general, without details, that's my general thought right now.
Great. And if you'd like, I can put up the language for what the code does say. You bring up a good point that the current language does apply to all construction, not just ADUs. So, this slide, construction involving changes to 50% or more of the exterior walls of a building, any building, or 500 square foot addition to any building.
Yeah, and I would favor 4 units or less, don't pay. more than 4 do. That's my general bias. Maybe that's oversimplifying. And the other thing related to that, Watkins, maybe you can answer that. Multifamily units of any size, I guess, including, let's use as a hypothetical example, large construction above the meadows. Are they allowed to have, well, no, this is a different subject. Never mind. It's not an ADU, it's short-term rental. Forget it. Never mind. I would just prefer that kind of bias that I previously stated. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions from council? Any comments from the audience? All right. So do we make a recommendation at this point? Does anybody have a recommendation to make?
I'm trying to figure out if there's information that you guys need us to bring back to you before you make a recommendation of any kind. There were a couple things that came up that we want to look into, but
Hold on, let me get you.
I don't know if the information is marginal or not. One thing I heard is what would be the projected financial impact? Is it marginal? Then maybe we don't need a lot of information, but if it is more substantial, we might. I don't know.
So I heard Watkins already just, but please.
Yeah, so I can just provide the little tidbit that the amount of fee in lieu for sidewalks that we've collected and from any project, not just ADUs, since 2020 is only $15,000.
Since 2020,
In 5 years.
we've collected fees in lieu of 50,000. It's
15.
15.
1
Okay.
5.
You answered that question. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Looks like Counselor Smith.
Thank you. From what we heard last meeting and what we heard tonight, I'm inclined to go with the staff recommendation of not changing anything right now. In part because that's a recommendation, in part because put on the spot unfairly, staff suggested that may be a greater net increase in sidewalks in the community. I like that idea. And the city manager said we should take some time to see how the Streets and Infrastructure Fund might interplay with this. All of those suggest to me, let's watch that interplay. Let's not rock something that's not a big deal financially either way and not make a change.
Thank you, Counselor Schmal.
I agree. It's, at this point, it's not a big issue. It's not worth changing. Just leave it alone.
Counselor Townsley.
I would disagree a little bit, but not majorly. I just, for $15,000, I still have a problem of somebody saying, okay, let's pay a deed or let's pay an in lieu fee of $1,500 because I live up on Minder and there's no sidewalk here, there's no sidewalk there. There's probably never going to be a sidewalk. I love sidewalks. I think we should have them everywhere. But, you know, to pay a fee in lieu of something that's not going to be used or is going to look really weird, or like Councilor Small said, is going to get ripped out when we do go and build a sidewalk. I would rather see us, and the recommendation from staff really was not much of a recommendation because we had 3 different answers from everybody. So I hate to have a citizen come back up and go, why are you guys charging me for something that's either useless or is not, I'm not going to do. So I think clearing that piece out would be worthwhile.
I'm going to speak and just say, I feel similarly. I think in looking at the revenue gain from this, it doesn't seem to make sense when we have the opportunity to possibly craft something more thoughtful and comprehensive rather than the piecemeal thing. I think it's unnecessarily complicating an already kind of complicated process. I think that from residents, sometimes our fee structure gets a little bit criticized. And I think with the passage of 2A, I think it provides us an opportunity to ease that just a little bit without feeling any guilt in doing so. So I'm more in agreement with Councilor Townsley.
I think I'm in agreement with Mayor Pro Tem and Counselor Townsley, if I'm understanding, to waive the fees for sidewalks, for ADUs or construction. My only concern would be, do you draw the line anywhere on small residential versus large, which I would draw a line. And our code kind of gives some discretion with 4 units or less already to our ComDev. And those are the kind of units we seem to be encouraging for infill. Above that, I think I'd leave a fee structure in place. That's where I'm leaning right now.
I have a quick question, to clarify my opinion. With new construction, so say it's kind of an undeveloped area, would waiving that sidewalk fee impact a new construction, something like that?
It would apply to new construction. Yes, ma'am.
So that would be the one caveat is, then we'd end up with a new construction that has like no infrastructure. So I don't know, there's always that unintended consequences. So I don't know if there's a way that we can clarify this, so that construction in existing residential areas is that, I don't know how that language works.
Can I ask a clarifying question? And this may be why Councilor Townsley put on his light, but are we talking about, I think we're talking about just for those people constructing ADUs.
Right.
Right.
But
So I think in the instance where we have new construction going on, I think to the extent that I think that greenfield development that was only an ADU probably isn't going to occur. There's going to be other components of that construction that would require sidewalks. So I think that situation would be unusual, but we can certainly look at it.
I might have gotten confused when you pulled the other language up that talked about construction changes of 500, and then I was like, well, wait, is that like in? So okay,
Yeah, so are we talking,
we're just ADUs.
I'm talking just ADUs?
Yep, just ADUs.
Waivers.
I too concur with the essence of what Councilors Zelinski and Townsley suggested, that we're probably, I'd like to head toward taking good advantage of the Streets and Infrastructure Fund. We just don't know that we're there yet and how that would play out physically or financially. So I like that better than piecemeal charging people in general, especially on small projects. But with the clarification that now we're talking about ADUs, I'm fine with just exempting them, which is another way of letting time pass while we calculate this 2A potential.
I had assumed, maybe wrongly, that the fee in lieu would pay for sidewalks somewhere else in town. So the fee that we're waiving is contributing to other sidewalks, just not in front of that particular development. So that's why I was saying, just leave it alone. We get some sidewalks and we get the ADUs. It's not been a determiner of whether or not an ADU gets built on a property.
Any further discussion?
What do we do from here?
I know, that's what. Do we vote on an action? Because we're not changing a resolution, or I guess we were.
Yeah, I
talking
was
about
going to say,
changing
I
a
think
code.
that, I think where you're at is if if you've decided not to change anything, we can just move on with life. If you really do want to waive them as to the ADUs, I think you need to give us that direction. And since I'm not sure where everybody's at, probably need a motion if you want some action.
Okay, that's where I was like, yeah, so.
Sure, I would respectfully say to what Commissioner Schmal said, the amount, I understand the shifting of dollars, but it's nominal. So for that reason, I would move that we waive the sidewalk fees for ADU construction. Everything else would stay the same.
Counselor Smith?
Second.
Any more discussion? Oh, no, we're done. We have talked enough. Yeah, right next to you.
Oh. Oh, are we voting already?
Yeah, yeah.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everybody. All right, thanks, Watkins.
Thank you, Wow.
All right, moving on to,
I slipped in and haven't voted.
yeah, we're going rogue tonight, so.
I,
Aaron Z's in charge now, folks.
just to say that I liked that experiment with discussion before choosing an action. I thought that was a fun exercise.
I think it's good. I think.
On something
choose to
threatening
do
like
that.
this, it worked. So I appreciate Councilman Townsley kind of initiating that experiment.
I don't disagree. I think if we choose to do that, we should keep our comments succinct so that we don't, over monopolize. All right, so Steve.
Good evening, council. My name is Steve Boyd. I'm your city manager. We are ready to submit for your consideration the 2026 budget for the city of Glenwood Springs. And like all good budget presentations, we can start with just a quick rundown memory lane for what we've been doing over the last year or so. I don't know if this will be a good presentation, but it will be brief because I know that there's at least 3 people back here with their stopwatches on me, looking for me to go over my time. Community center, we've done a lot of work here. We've done floors, worked on some pools. We redid a lot of the climbing wall, and we're going to keep working towards that. Art center, we did a roof. We did some railings and some stuff inside. Brush Creek Park looked like this before we did 3 Mile. Looks like this after. 3 Mile Park. Looks pretty good. Looks almost like it did before we did it, but everything works now and it's all fixed.
There's a bathroom.
Yep. Recreation programs, all kinds of stuff under bridge events. That was cool. Celebrations. We've maintained our parks and we've really tried to make things look a little bit better, just kind of incrementally here and there, just trying to improve a little bit. And I think we're making progress on that. Public safety. We have a police department. It's right there. They do active threat training and all kinds of training. If you are interested in being this guy, they will let you do that. You're pretty sure that you're not going to be shot at with live rounds, but you're not 100% sure of that. And when you get thrown into this, it is an absolutely terrifying experience. And if you really want to know what these guys train and what they go through, I'd encourage you to do that. And I think that John and Chief would let you come and play. Bill Kimmenaugh left, 40 years in service. I think when he retired, the retirement speech that Chris Dietrich gave said that his social security number was 67. Something like that. That's pretty good. There's Dietrich right there. He graduated from the FBI Academy. It makes him a CBA, and HR wouldn't let me put what CBA means. It might or might not mean certified badass. That's a pretty cool thing. It's 12 weeks and it's hard and it's grueling, and super proud of him and super proud that Chief is able to get people in there because it's not easy. Outreach, lots of outreach from the police department. We have a fire department. Fire department also does stuff for the public. Lots of outreach there. We have 3 shifts. There's shift 1. There's shift 2. I didn't really have a picture for shift 3, but we have another shift somewhere. We have a new fire truck. That's me in that picture, not sitting in the driver's seat. You will notice. Chief will not let me get anywhere near that. We buy equipment, and I'm always on him to say, why do we need this $4,000 saw? Why can't we go down to Home Depot? And he's like, okay, I'll answer that question. Come out here. This is a garage door. And when you put your saw through this and you figure out how we're going to get through and break into things, basically, then that's how you know that now I understand. They do a lot of this kind of training. This is forced entry. These doors are out at the boneyard. They're harder to get in than anything that they're going to encounter. So it's pretty cool. Swiftwater. If you want to come out and take a look at what they do out here, it's hotter than anything they'll encounter. It's darker in there than anything they'll encounter. It's harder to hear. These guys train pretty hard, and it's actually kind of inspiring to watch. And they need to do it because we actually do have fires sometimes that they have to respond to. And we have, you know, stuff that they have to respond to. I don't really have words for some of this, but they're the ones that have to go figure everything out. Public Works, a lot of stuff happening in Public Works. This list is the things that we put in the budget in the first amendment after our street and infrastructure increase passed. Those are the things that would not be in the budget otherwise. And most importantly, that wouldn't be in the budget otherwise. We picked up Mindy Harmon. She was a great hire. Blake Avenue. Pretty cool. Red Mountain North. Pretty cool. We do outreach to businesses because we're going to tear up their stuff and make it look like that so that we can finish it up and make it look like that. Progress there. North Landing, may as well get that while we're digging into stuff. You can see this park. It's going to look really nice. It's not nearly as big as you think, you know, when you look at this picture, but we're going to finish that up soon here. Alleys downtown, we're going to keep working on these before, during, after. So we're cleaning things up kind of one at a time. We picked up little projects like Lincolnwood Drive. We fixed this sidewalk finally. You're going to see these tax dollar at work signs everywhere you go around town. We put this little piece of Wolfson in. So we're doing some damage on that kind of stuff. Southbridge obviously is something that continues to roll on for us. On-demand transportation rolled out thanks to some help from RAFTA with a grant. This is what Councilor Smith was talking about a little while ago. We have launched our transportation management organization, so we're making some progress there. We have a landfill, and the landfill is pretty cool. If you are standing up here and you're looking down this way, you'll see bears that are down there and they have lunch in the landfill and they're cruising through. And then when they're done, they go swimming. And this is just such a cool picture. It doesn't cost us any money, but it's a cool picture. I took that from a long way away, so it's a little hard to see, but they go bathing. We do make improvements in our landfill. We put a new cattle guard in. No cows. We love bears. We don't like cows at the landfill for whatever reason. We're separating glass. That's a lot of glass. Hazardous collection. Equipment storage. This is out at the boneyard. We're just putting this in. It's heated storage, so things like our water truck can be accessible all year round. It doesn't take us as long to get it out there. It extends the life of our heavy equipment. We can use our street sweeper a little later in the year and start a little bit earlier in the year. So we've been wanting to do that for some time. Trying to upgrade as we go along. Water, wastewater stuff. We made pretty major infrastructure changes at 6th Street, Palmer and Bennett. We've upgraded plants again this year. Lead and copper water line inventory. Broadband keeps rolling along. Administration. This is the fun stuff. Right? Yvette's budget won the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, which means that an average citizen has all of the information they need to completely, transparently, and fully understand our city budget. This is the award for Yvette's audit, and that means that an average citizen can believe that the numbers in our audited financial report are accurate. So pretty cool. Holy debris flow, that happened a couple of years ago. Ryan was out there, and he takes me around on this stuff. He's an insurance ninja. And there'll be times that, he's working with CIRSA, and CIRSA will tell us, well, they've agreed to pay 80% of this claim. And Ryan's like, I'll call him. So we'll call the other insurance company and he'll call back and say they agreed to 100%. You're like, ninja. But we're mitigating this stuff. This picture is up on Red Mountain. And if you go up there a lot, this fence is meant to keep stuff out of where it shouldn't be. We have made these much wider and bigger. You can't see it very well here, but these rock barriers, contain debris flow and water that comes down. So we're not going to have the problem again that we had not too long ago that takes out that road. We had lots of core requests. We keep getting more and more and more of those, but that has become a significant part of our administration. All kinds of communication and events. Bree was everywhere this year. I don't see that happening any differently anytime soon. Oh my. Chat with council. Cybersecurity upgrades. We have invested a lot of money getting rid of stuff that scares us. cybersecurity is a very big thing, and we have transformed in the last 2 years under Nick's leadership and with our IT team. We sleep much better at night. I was really starting to get worried a little bit about that, but not anymore. I think we're in really good shape here. We are in the very last phase of our ERP implementation. We just finished up EP&L, which is the community development portion. Now we just have to kind of get the implementation, implemented, so to speak. It's just like anything else, mornings start like this, and by the afternoon, it looks like that. Housing symposium. This is Kevin up here talking housing stuff. New full-time employees. If there's one thing that is going well in this city right now, it's our new hires. We are absolutely killing it right now. We are getting the talent that we need. It has become difficult to get a job offer in this city. The people that do get that job offer and come in are doing a fantastic job. I'll go through them. Okay, we missed on this one. All the rest of them are good. It's just this one. There's Liz, facilities, finance, IT, ComDev, community center, 2 police cadets, 2 fire guys. This guy just started today. It was literally his first day. He's up in the conference room today. I don't even know how Yvette and Bree got his picture in my deck, but whatever. Streets, broadband, that's Cyrus. Interesting guy, damn good at his job. Water, wastewater, landfill. We have a really good team, and we're trying to keep this team happy. And we put some money into this budget. We're going to start a leadership academy, and we're using kind of different partners. Chapman, Roaring Fork Leadership, ICMA are the ones that we've chosen, at least so far. So we feel really good about that. And I'm so appreciative of staff and everybody does, and I know that they appreciate their staff and everything. But we get so much help. We get help from you guys. We get help from our boards and commissions. We get help from the public. We get help from everywhere. And we are really very conscious of that and very appreciative. If you guys didn't allocate the resources that we need to do our jobs, this wouldn't be working. So thank you guys very much. But that was yesterday. So let's talk about tomorrow. This is our strategic goals. There's no numbers on them. We're going to finish that plan up, I think, by the end of the year. There's not going to be major changes, but we tie every penny that we spend to one of these strategic goals. The people responsible to carry that out are right here. There are 3 new ones, and if you don't know which ones those are, they're them right there. Everybody's had their an arrow over their head at one time or another. So here are the highlights. If somebody asks you, what's the Glenwood Springs budget? The answer is $106 million. That is down 3.6 from our 2025 forecast. We have 24 total funds, including 12 special revenue funds, like our street tax fund and like marijuana tax and tobacco tax, bus tax, that kind of stuff. We have 5 enterprise funds, water, electric, landfill, broadband, trash. We have 1 fleet fund. We own and service our fleet in-house. And we have 3 capital funds, A&I capital projects and fire equipment replacement. 1 general fund with 18 different departments. So it's a complicated budget. We have a lot of restrictions on how and where we can spend money that we have to kind of work through. Unallocated reserves estimated at the end of 2026. Let's hope my battery runs out on us. 11.6 million in the general fund. That's about 36% or 37% of expected 2020 expenditures at the end of 2026. 3.3 million in the capital projects fund, 8 million in the A&I fund. In all 3 cases, those reserves meet the GFOA and Financial Advisory Board recommendations. In fact, everything in this budget meets both of those groups' recommendations. General fund revenue, $29.5 million, up, but not up much. 0.7% is what we're expecting in 2026. Expenditures, $29.5 million, up 1.2% from our 2025 forecast. The general fund carries 123 employees, and it's just interesting to know that about 2/3 of it is salaries and benefits. And we spend about 40% of our general fund on public safety. That's the biggest individual contributor of expenditures in the general fund. So what's in this year in the 2026 budget? $11 million in street and infrastructure upgrades, $12 million in police and fire protection, $3 million in public transportation, $450,000 of improvements in our parks and on our trails, $750,000 in workforce housing, and about $500,000 of upgrades at the community center. And something that we've been increasing and I think is very significant is $400,000 in professional development. We want to develop our people, and we want as many people as possible in this city that are wanting to and ready to take their boss's job when it comes open. So we're working hard at that. What's not in this budget? You will not see a lot of beautification projects in here. This is a very blue collar budget, and it's very focused on maintaining and improving the resources that we've got now. You don't see a lot of plans and studies that either sit on a shelf or, give us a whole bunch of expensive stuff to do. We don't believe in use it or lose it spending. Our culture is to try to bring budgets in under budget instead of saying, if I don't spend it now, they'll take it away from me. There are no layoffs planned in this budget, and there are no reduction in services planned in the 2026 budget. With that, we're done. How fast was that? Did I make my time? Thank you.
It's a beautiful budget.
Is this available on the website?
It's a gorgeous budget.
Did you think? Is this available to the public on the website?
Yes, as soon as
Sorry.
we submit it, which we've just done, we will make it available for the public. It will be open for inspection for the next 2 weeks, and then there will be a public budget hearing 2 weeks from tonight. The meeting after that, you'll vote to adopt the budget.
Is this slideshow?
You're not on, so let me get you.
I will attach the slideshow to this agenda item, so it's available to the public.
Thank you.
Counselor Small?
I'd like to make an observation about the award that Yvette got and who it came from and how cloistered those accounting people may be. For anybody to think that the average citizen could figure out that budget is a real overstatement. It's very fairly presented and very understandable. I don't have that much confidence in the average citizen.
Well stated. Oh, sorry. Do it again. Counselor Smith. No, push your button.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really glad we're gonna have a copy of that in our pocket, because if we do get questions, that's a really handy resource. Yeah. Very thoughtfully done. Thanks to you and Yvette and Sarah and whoever helped you put that together. It's great. Just because you mentioned specifically beautification on your not included list, do you and staff see that as a temporary circumstance because budgets are tight, or do we just in general not do beautification?
I think both things are true. Things are tight right now, so we're focused on, getting things out of the budget that are wants and not needs where we can. It is also true that long-term, I think we will do more beautification as stuff comes up, but it's going to be minimal, and it's not going to be stuff that's really expensive to maintain.
Good. I like that last part of the answer because it is a charming town, both for visitors and for residents. And a big part of that charm is public facilities that work, but a big part of that charm is public facilities that are beautiful, that are pleasant, that are enjoyable. So keeping an eye on that qualitative side as well, whenever we can with our city's own money or outside sources, I think is a nice part of keeping this town enjoyable. Thank you.
Yeah, and a good example I might just add, when we built 6th Street and when we built North Landing, the city, Matt and his team built that to city standards, right? We put the infrastructure in that we always would. The DDA came in behind us, and they're the ones that put in the beautification and made it worthy of being a downtown kind of revenue generating district.
Thank you.
Counselor Thompson.
I'd also kind of leapfrog up what everybody else has said. I think it's a great job. And, you know, every time I dig into anything now, you hear about the national budget, you hear about the state budget, and everybody's going back to the drawing board. So I think coming in under, looking at not increasing things, I think we're on the right track, and every piece we can go down that way. Hopefully times change down the road, but the bigger the reserve numbers, the less things we're doing that are running it up, I think the better. So good job.
All right. Cool. Thank you very much. Looks like we are moving on to project wrap up and future projects. Brian Gordon.
Hey.
This is gonna be more bragging, right?
This will be bragging.
Some chest thumping.
Oh, no, that's not the right one. Oh, Bree, I need your help. Oh, here we go. Getting there. Yes.
See the spider might jump out.
Oh.
Right. I don't know where he is now. He's heading.
Some.
Button.
They're not my favorite of God's creatures.
There we go.
I'm not gonna lie.
He's been
One of these
screaming.
is-
Yay.
Scary.
You just.
Counselor Smith.
No, they're lovely and they're beneficial and still not, I'm not,
Good evening, Ryan Gordon, your city engineer, here for generally a wrap up of this year's projects and a little preview of what's happening next. Again, you've seen this map many, many times. Green means it's done, so almost everything is done. There are a few exceptions that I'll go into. The blue are things in design. That's kind of a preview for next year. So touch on the things that are red so you get an idea of what's left to do. So the biggest thing that didn't get done, you can see along the backbone of Glenwood, the rail removal project that is RAFTA's job. They're funding it and running it. Unfortunately, that came in substantially over budget and was not able to be done. The things that impacted the city of Glenwood more in particular were the crossings at 23rd and then Riverside. Those unfortunately will be deferred till later. RAFTA is required to replace those and fix those since they're in their corridor. On that list was 7th Street over here, initially in the project. Well, since that project was canceled, Matt and the streets department went ahead and just did that themselves. The rail is removed and gone, and paving happens next Monday. So that is no longer an eyesore in the city of Glenwood Springs. That project, the rail removal project, is slated for next year. So we'll see how that comes in conjunction with RAFTA. The other thing in the upper left-hand corner, the Whitewater Wave Pedestrian Crossing project, well, that is a mouthful, is starting next week, mobilization next week, and should be done sometime towards the end of October, beginning of November timeframe. And then the last thing is North Landing. Steve showed a picture of it, right? The last things are kind of going in this calendar year, slated to be almost completely done by Halloween. Just to refresh everybody's memory, the last thing is the bathroom. The bathroom is coming in next spring, but everything will be ready for that thing to basically lift it from a flatbed trailer onto the slab and hook up the pipes, and away we go. So we'll be buttoning up there. Like I said, I'm not going to go through everything. I do have a few pictures. There's a few things in here that are not shown that we accomplished. So streets department paved alleyways, 1, 2, 3 of them from 10th to 11th between Palmer and Bennett, 10th to 11th between Bennett and Blake, and 12th to 13th between Colorado and Grand. They have a plan every year to do a number of these to rehabilitate them. And so they knocked out 3. They may get 1 more this year, depending on both weather and availability. Same with Public Works on sidewalks. So they went through and they replaced a bunch of sidewalks all over the place, a lot due to heave or cracking or falling apart. Bunch all over the place in South Glen, kind of on 82 beyond 23rd Street, 7th in Colorado, and over in Park West, and then a few others that I'm sure I'm missing, but I want to give those guys their kudos because they've done a fantastic job. Also with some minor asphalt and regrading projects. Namely, one is over by the Vapor Caves. They went out there and took out and fixed some drainage issues. So that worked out really well. They're continually doing slip lining of sewer lines. Instead of replacing sewer lines, they will slip line the interior of them to make them whole again. A few reports that we did complete. So our PASER report, this will be something probably coming up later, but that is our road assessment. So we did this in 2017, went through and looked at the quality of all of the roads, and it gives a rating from 0 to 10. We did that in 17, and we did it again this year, so we can do some comparison and contrast. That also is going to help us inform us for our next capital projects. Because again, our goal is if we're going to replace a road, should we replace everything underground? And so they kind of work in tandem, right? Dig once, replace once type thing. We're in the process of completing our stormwater master plan. That's ahead of our MS4 permit that we will be required to get. We got notice earlier this year that we will have a permit. So we are getting ahead of that to get an understanding of stormwater. Last thing not shown on here is we are actively looking in putting in our rapid flash beacons for pedestrian crossings. A lot of the roundabouts are getting that treatment. Some of these are on the Blake Avenue we just done. Some are over on North Landing in 6th Street, but those again are going in to help with pedestrian safety. So some of these things I'll kind of mention later. I am going to go through a few projects, not in detail, but just give you a couple highlights. Steve kind of stole my show by stealing all my photos, but that's all right. So Red Mountain North, these are the few of the bigger projects. Water line, water surfaces, hydrants, some sewer services, all new curb and gutter. We actually save money on the project. You know, I think a lot of times budgets go over, but this is kudos to both Ashley Dostal, Mindy Harmon in our office, who really are tracking things and keeping the contractor honest. Found some savings. $50,000 isn't nothing to be disappointed about. This was funded through the infrastructure fund, and then water and wastewater fund contributed to this as well. You may have seen some before and after photos, but again, this was a pretty decrepit road. We've heard this a couple times. Some of the residents were like, please just leave it with potholes. It keeps people slow. But we came in here and replaced the road. A couple of nice photos, new curb and gutter, helps with drainage. So Red Mountain North, very successful project. Blake Avenue, currently finishing up. We're basically 99% there. We're doing some landscaping. It was paved a couple weeks ago. It looks fantastic. Striping is happening next week as well. That's the last little bit to kind of clean it up. I won't read the slide, but a lot of details. Water line, sewer line, lots of storm, curb and gutter, fully rebuild of that road. So I show the budget. So we are on budget on this one. There was a bunch of changes and some challenges, but we were able to delete some stuff, optimize some stuff, and then make some other improvements in this project. We had a DOLA grant, and it was funded by a DOLA grant, and then some infrastructure funding from the street tax, and the water and wastewater fund also contributed to this project. Again, some great photos. This project really was desperately needed. It was a continuation of our phase one. One thing to notice is we are putting in one of those rapid flash beacons here at 23rd and Blake Avenue intersection. So great improvements here. The alleyways project is complete. I say complete, I'm saying complete for the night. There's a few last things. The last thing is actually get the string lights up. The poles are up. Everything is ready to go. We're in the final stages. So that's going to be an awesome project when it's done. And just to remember, it was a lot of underground stormwater piping for drainage. We undergrounded almost all of the overhead power lines, comm lines that we could, and replace the surface with concrete. So great, beautiful change, much improved. This one, we actually had quite a bit of savings, $190,000. We're still going through the details of what we actually saved, but through a bunch of different things, particularly with the city buying product and then giving to the contractor to install, namely light poles, we found a lot of great savings and optimized a bunch of other areas. So DOLA provided a lot of the funding. We had money from the infrastructure fund. And then as Steve mentioned, the beautification, the niceties DOLA paid for, or DDA paid for, excuse me. I think Steve maybe showed this exact photo, so you can get another dose of it, but much cleaned up. Very, very nice. So 6th Street North Landing. 6th Street is done. We are waiting for, again, done with quotation marks again. Light poles are the last things waiting, and those are coming in, I think, with the next couple, 3-4 weeks to go up. But humongous project, right? Over 2 years. Water line, sewer line. We have a raw water line we extended. Lots of curb and gutter, lots of storm, lighting, landscaping, all the park improvements. So the park improvements are are getting real close. So the pergola is going up next week, which will be a big thing. A lot of the hardscape is done. That will be completed by October, like I mentioned earlier, by Halloween, except for that bathroom. This project, lots of different moving parts and pots of money, right? But essentially we have realized to date at least $700,000 in savings. That number is actually probably closer to $1.2 million in savings. Again, you know, the engineering office and public works and worked really hard to find meaningful savings. And a lot of these were city buying light poles, benches, whatnot, and then having the contractor install them. So we've learned a lot in how to do things a little bit better, more efficiently, as we're starting to get our feet under us in my department. This project was funded through tons of stuff. So CDOT provided a grant. We had infrastructure money. We have the DDA with all the beautification, landscaping. RAFTA provided money for the multi-use path and the rapid flash beacons. And then again, the water wastewater fund provided funds for a lot of the other features for the water and sewer. Couple little photos. Again, you know, massive improvements. If you haven't been out there, obviously it's a spectacular place to be. That's looking down 6th and then kind of the other way, you know, much narrower intersections. And every time I go out there, there's people everywhere shopping and doing great stuff. So great thing. So a project we finished up way early, the Lincoln One project. Some stormwater improvements for drainage, all new curb and gutter, and a brand new road. Again, in this project, so we saved $13,000. Not a lot, but again, a pretty consistent message that we've been able to hit our budgets or actually even be better than what we planned. So funded through our infrastructure fund on this project. Similar photos, right? You know, brand new road and a really decrepit road that we replaced. So something, again, you know, much needed. So the Wolfson Road. So we replaced a section of Wolfson Road from East Meadows to Midland. So that was generally a mill and overlay, but we had some sections that were so deteriorated we had to do a full rebuild. We rebuilt the bus station, the bus pull off there. Right on budget on this one. So a few little photos here. This is looking at Midland. That concrete valley pan and all the connections was really beat up. So that was one of the big nice things that we replaced here. Great project. Steve mentioned the Wolfson Sidewalk project. So this is from the rec center going towards the Meadows. On budget as well, provided by the infrastructure fund. This is sort of a 2-for-1. So the road on the right was part of the road. We replaced the Wolfson Road, and then you can see the sidewalk, a missing piece of that connectivity on that portion. So really great projects overall. We did just a ton of work. So some of the stuff that we're looking forward to next year. So same color scheme. Blue is design, red is construction. So start with construction, things that we definitely know are going to happen. Upper right-hand corner, Highway 6 and 24, the shared use path. This has been on the books for years. The project is done. It's gone through a review with CDOT. CDOT's providing some money. So we're in the CDOT administration, for better or for worse. So that one should be bid out here pretty quick. So brand new bike path from West Glenwood to Glenwood, extending a water line, stormwater improvements, new bus stop there, new crossings. It's going to be a really great project. Undergrounding some electric. Other projects, some form of Blake Avenue Phase 3. So we're looking at probably 13th back to maybe 15th. That's it's not really 15th. That's, virtual 15th. That's the road that goes between, around City Market. We're trying to figure out what to do, what to fit in that budget. So we'll see how the numbers all play out, but we're going to do something on Blake again. Coach Miller Drive, we're doing around the high school. We've applied for an FMLD grant. We'll see what that comes in. That's going to be a project that is fully rebuilding Coach Miller Drive from Park Avenue in the south, around the corner to Pitkin, and then it turns to 14th up to Grand Avenue. Been working with the high school there. That's going to have some great connectivities at the Lone Tree Park, a new sidewalk that doesn't exist. Interesting enough, when we submitted our grant to FMLD, they're asking for a photo. We just went to Google Earth, and on Google Earth, the little guy you bring on the road, and there's someone walking on the road because there was no sidewalk. So something that was really needed, and the high school is really thrilled with the improvements we're making there. Again, 19th Street was on the list last year, or I guess this year. Got kicked off because of funding. We're looking at maybe doing that. That'll be generally a mill and overlay, but maybe some drainage, maybe some sidewalk improvements. We'll see how that kind of all plays out. So those are kind of the big things. Things will be massaged as we move forward. If we get some additional grant monies, we can expand, either doing more Blake Avenue, or some mill and overlays, or some other things, right? We kind of always kind of have these internal discussions on what to do next. Some things in design that will be certainly not next year, but always looking towards the future. So we're wrapping up the design on the roundabout at Wilson in Midland Avenue. We'll have that design done nominally at the end of this year, probably before then. We can actually start to strategize. How do we pay for that project? That's going to be pretty impactful, both from a cost perspective, but then predominantly a disruptive perspective, given where it is in the world. And we'll be looking for both grants and other funding partners to kind of help with that. We have completed the design, or excuse me, the survey and all the right-of-way property research for the Cowden 8th Midland 7th Street. Again, that's that whole 8th and Midland, taking that all the way through down to basically Colorado, including 7th Street and the parking lot. We're going to kind of do kind of a master plan type design and probably phase that out in portions and decide in the next couple of weeks internally what portions to kind of do first, right? We're going to bring on a consultant at some point, but internally we're going to do the conceptual level designs and start doing some public meetings. Same thing's going to go for North Glenwood. That is under survey right now and all the property research. And again, should be done towards the end of this year. We know there's a lot of things that need to be fixed up there: storm, road, surface, curb and gutter. So we're going to start to dive into that. And again, just like Cowden, we're going to do the conceptual level engineering in-house and then kick it over to a consultant to finish it. Kind of a broken record here. Glenwood Park is the same thing. We are under survey right now. That should be done at the end of the year. Start looking at conceptual designs. We met with citizens out of Brush Mountain Park the other day to talk about the trail connectivity from that park down to 3 Mile. That'll be part of that, but Glenwood Park, the roads, curb and gutter, drainage, all needs to be replaced, fixed, and addressed. So we're going to look at that here relatively soon. So that's kind of the big ones. The one I didn't mention, Oasis Creek, that was a kind of an emergency repair last year with a failed culvert. That's something that we're looking, we're getting design now of some access and some features there. Look to fix that. One thing, I mentioned is the stormwater master plan will identify some areas that we could look to make some upgrades, not just simply for the MS permit, but also for drainage considerations. So again, as we sort of mature and get ideas back on project costs, we'll be able to know better. We are planning on bidding out Coach Miller and 6 and 24 within the next couple months. We want to get that out in the street, get information back early next year, 26, to be able to use those numbers to plan for the rest of the year and decide how much of Blake we can do, how much some other projects that we can do. So I think that is the list. So that is all. And so I'm happy to take any questions from council at this point.
Councilor Shannon.
Ryan, great job. Thank you. Thanks to everybody, Matt. Tiny observation that was brought to me by another pedestrian. Cooper, the alley improvements are great, and we're encouraging flow through pedestrian work. What are the pros and cons of having crosswalk stripes on Cooper to both encourage pedestrians to use the alley and maybe get some cars aware the pedestrians might be there? That was just passed on to me. I pass it on to you as a question.
Yeah, the DDA has a project that is going to be managed by engineering, but to redo Olaf Cooper from 7th to 8th. That is in their budget. Actually, last DDA meeting, money is allocated to finish up that design. That will be a feature. One thing that was in the initial kind of conceptual design was whether it's striped or a raised platform or something, again, right, to draw people in. Cooper is going to be sucked in to some regards, right, to kind of more encourage both, sidewalk cafe type atmosphere, but also to slow traffic down and to kind of pull downtown out. So that's a good observation, and something is happening with regards to that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Excellent. Counselor Smith? Oh, geez, you guys, I just hit the wrong button. Let's start over.
Thank you. I feel neglectful that I failed to show up with confetti and bubble machines. This is astounding. We kind of knew all this was in the works, but to encapsulate it into a 1-year time frame, in some cases much less, is really, really impressive in volume, but also impressive that these are tangible things. These are things that people understand. And so it's really where the city's good work shows. In particular, I love the 23rd Blake section that just completed, and sidewalk was finally finished yesterday, which turns out to be the 3rd east-west crossing for bicycles and pedestrians. You have only 3. We're really good north-south, but we're starting to crack that egg of east-west, and this is an important part of that. So thank you. The 27th, the west roundabout on 27th Street got crosswalk stripes, I think for the first time since it was installed in 2008 or whatever. So that was I know that was a tricky thing to do on a roundabout with only 1 lane traffic, but it was really appreciate that in addition to these major projects, just the improvements that you're doing to help people get around and help drivers and pedestrians and cyclists find each other and where necessary, avoid each other. You mentioned in your description of use of the Streets and Infrastructure Fund, I think you were describing, we're looking for streets that need, through our PASER study, streets that need attention, and then you'll do the utilities at the same time. Is that indeed the sequence that you use for prioritizing, or do you find horrible sewer and go for that and do the street?
It's both, right? So water and wastewater understand where their problems are. We know where our problems are from the street. We have both reports that could be melded. And so when one has to happen, we have conversations to make sure, again, we're not going to pave a road and then water comes in and says, well, we're digging this up tomorrow because it's failing. So there is that conversation that goes on a weekly, monthly basis.
So good. So similarly, you're not going to make them wait to get a good sewer until you think you need to do the street. One can drive the other.
Correct. Right. And the PASER report too does differentiate between a full road rebuild and a mill and overlay. Right. So there is definitely this interplay between water and wastewater, sewer and streets and all of us. So yeah, we're working constantly together.
Thank you. You mentioned Glenwood Park. I want to be sure I got my notes right because that's backyard. Survey phase is complete or happening now?
Survey is underway and should be completed this calendar year.
Okay. And then design begin on the heels of that.
Yeah. And so all 3 of those big projects, right, we're going to have a very large public outreach effort. Make sure we bring in all the residents and to make sure that, again, what we think we need or we want as staff matches up with what the residents, the subdivisions want.
Okay. And it was clear from discussions about the Streets and Infrastructure Fund funding itself and the proposal for it to right down to tonight, that something as big as Glenwood Park's not going to be all done in the same way. It's going to be done in phases. Is this design and outreach discussion going to be about the whole park, and then you pick phases from that, or are you going to do design and outreach just but also in phases?
Yeah, no, it'll be comprehensive. I think what we want is we want input from everybody. We want to design it once. So once we take it to a nominally a 10-20% design level, we'll kick it over to a consultant and design the rest of it. And then to break it out into pieces, both in priority. If road or infrastructure is failing in one area, we can prioritize that. And then do phases. Because you're right, Glenwood Park, the rebuild of Glenwood Park is many years of work. And so, but again, from a design perspective, it's much more efficient to do one design with one consultant and then piece it out for construction.
That's helpful clarification. Last point, last question. On the advent of North Landing becoming a park, becoming a activity events center, what physical accommodations, what policies, what restrictions are there going to be to keep the bicycle pedestrian bridge approach and the sidewalks along 6th free of vehicles, equipment staging, displays? How do we keep that flow going, even though you're going to try to bring in vendors or performers to that park?
So I mean, we've been having discussions with DDA on potential park activities. This will be a fluid thing. We haven't settled on what policies. We're working on a lot of signage to make sure people understand where to ride, where not to ride, where, if there are dismount zones, where to go. So it's going to be a balancing act, and we haven't quite clarified all of those activities with regards to that, but that's going to be something that we're need to work out.
Good.
But again,
the part that I'm really hoping gets included in that discussion is we don't end up having concert trailers or vendor trucks parked on the ped bridge.
No, right. Yeah, absolutely. You know, North Landing was designed to accommodate those items. So a band, for example, there's a place in the park to do that without blocking circulation.
Okay.
Same thing with a food truck. A food truck could be accommodated North Landing or someplace else without parking on the sidewalks or the bridge. It is critical that those are kept open for both public safety circulation and for just normal, you know, people walking around.
Good answer. Thanks very much.
Councilor Sproul.
It's great to see all of that stuff, Ryan. Like we said, it's a tangible benefit that everybody can see and appreciate. On 6th Street, the lights are still not in?
That's correct.
Is there a solid delivery date on those yet?
Yeah, Councilor Small, there is, and I don't have that. I want to say that it is early November when they will be here.
Oh, good. Before the Christmas festivities.
That is correct. Yeah.
Because the one downside is that as narrow as it is, as dark as it is, it's a little spooky down there.
And we're working with our electric department on finding some temporary solutions, bringing in some lights that we have in we have a few spares around that may not look architecturally correct, but we can put them up to get some light. Because you're correct. I mean,
Functional.
It's dark now, and in a month from now, it's dark 3 hours early. So
Yeah. And getting the flashing pedestrian crossing lights in, I presume that's what's going on up by the school and on Midland now that I saw the people out there working. Is that, you know what that is?
yeah, so we have some beacons going up on 6 and 24. We have some, you know, some of the bus stops are on 6 and 24, so we have some crossings going there. We have rapid flash beacons going on at 6th Street. We have 3 pair there. In some of the roundabouts. Are you referring up on like the Donegan area?
No, Midland.
Oh,
cameras.
those are the speed
Those
cameras.
are the speed cameras that are going in. Okay, I was thinking it was a pedestrian crossing at the school.
So there is one where one of the speed cameras is going, I'm pointing the wrong over here. There is also a rapid flash beacon over by Yampa High School.
Yeah.
So there is one there, and the speed camera is being located in that general direction.
Oh, that makes sense.
Location.
They'd both be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
When is construction anticipated? I know it's going to go to bid for on the 6 and 24 shared path. Do you have an anticipated, does that depend on the bid, or do you have that kind of forecasted when you anticipate construction to start?
So we're going to issue the bid and then allow the contractor to start whenever they can.
Okay,
We're going to give them a time deadline, sometime towards the end of 26. We haven't quite worked those out. But again, if we can get the bid out early enough, it gives us two huge benefits. One is it gets us out there early and gets good competitive bids. And then if we have a light winter, this last winter was, by mid-February, we didn't have snow around. If 6 and 24 was out there, they can be digging for the water line. They can be putting things in. It's a lot of concrete, not asphalt, right? So sometimes with that asphalt, you have to wait till the summertime or when the plants are open. Concrete, you can do it whenever. So it gives us the benefit of saying, hey, if you can mow in February and start going, go nuts.
got it. All right, that's great news.
Yeah.
Thank you. Counselor Smith.
Is there still time to get a sawed off piece of the railroad rail that got pulled out of 7th Street to give to Counselor Schachter as a souvenir?
Take a photograph.
To mount in his yard. Unfortunately, the streets department is so darn efficient. We were trying to get some of that, and by the time we called them up, they said, "Man, it's gone. We cut it up. It's disposed." So, I'm sorry, Counselor Schachter. No Christmas present for you this year.
Happy to see them gone.
I thought you were gonna give it to Ralph Trapani.
Or to Ralph.
Yeah. All right, cool. I think seeing no more comments, I think that wraps it up.
Well, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. All right, City Manager Steve Boyd.
I wanted to thank Bree and Yvette. I don't know how they find the time, but they helped pull together the presentation for the budget that I did. And like everything else you guys have heard in the last half an hour, I don't actually do any of this. So thank you guys for your help pulling that together. That's it.
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
Do we have any correspondence?
We have one thank you letter from Lift Up program.
Fantastic. All right, are we socializing, Counselor Shet?
Have time for comments?
Oh. Yeah, I totally skipped it.
like moving on. I was like, I'm not gonna say.
I totally skipped it. I felt like we talked so much. My bad. Are there any more comments from anybody? I feel like I've talked enough, but. Counselor Townsley, my apologies.
No worry, just two things. One is we kind of talked about in the work session a little bit today. Hopefully over the next month, anything and everything that's pertaining to Southbridge we'll get information on. Would love to at some point, either in a work session or up here, be able to ask some questions of somebody that knows a whole lot more about fires than I do. Same thing about tolling. I think Ryan actually earlier today answered a bunch of my questions on that, but just, bringing in some people that we can ask questions to, not only for our own edification, but also for anybody that's following along, from a citizen standpoint, would love to have.
You
Anyone
just
else?
waiting for signals?
If you don't push the button, I'm not gonna call on you.
Thank you. One comment is really a question. Does the federal government shutdown have an effect on city operations that we're noticing yet in 2 days?
Not yet. We don't get a lot of money from the federal government and we don't ask a lot from the federal government. So we don't think it's going to be a super significant thing for the city of Glenwood Springs.
Thank you. And again, I have a meeting with the CDOT executive director tomorrow. I welcome advice while we're here. If anybody has any on what to ask, what to watch out for, what you'd like me to try to get out of that. And then finally, congratulations to Liz, our deputy city clerk, on her premier front seat performance tonight. Things went well.
Bang. Great dinner.
Right? You got the most important part right, for sure. All right. Are we good? All right. Are we socializing after this? Counselor Shet. Sumner. Are we socializing?
Who is? I will show up if there are any bodies.
So you have to announce where we're doing that.
I have to.
Well, yeah, because I'm me and I can't.
If there is a social gathering, it'll be a dox.
Okay. All right. All right. We are adjourned at